5 of the Spinner Rack Review, and today we're going to be reviewing The American Way, number 1 by Vertigo. Marvel's title is going to be Old Man Logan, number 26, and then from DC we have Dark Days, The Casting, number 1, which is a prelude to the Metal series that's coming out later on.
And a sequel to a book we've previously reviewed in the first episode, right?
Yeah, it basically continues from
The
that
Forge.
story.
Yep.
So the first book we're going to review is The American Way. If you, what's the subtitle for it? Those Above and Those Below. This is actually a sequel series to the original The American Way series, which took place in 1960s era. This one takes place in 1970s after the heroes have disbanded and kind of gone their own ways. It seems to me that the main character in this is the New American, even though they go into some of the other superheroes and what they're going on about. It's basically going to be, from my understanding of the book, a definition of who the New American will become now that he is no longer part of a larger whole sort of group. It starts off with him kind of busting in, trying to stop this guy who's gone around killing drug dealers. And
It's kind of like a Black Punisher.
yeah.
The guy's killing.
Yeah, the guy who's killing.
Or
is
the
like,
guy's trying to stop.
Yeah. So there's a lot of racial tension in this book. The New American is an African American who they weren't really ready for in the original series to be a superhero. They weren't ready to become interracial, basically. And this whole series is an alternate history, basically. So if you like history and you like that kind of genre of alternate history, this would be an interesting book because it gives superheroes and historical
Socio-political.
Yeah, it sort of takes actual history and says, well, what if there were superheroes alive during this time period in the 60s and 70s that was very a lot of political strife and domestic strife, and what if superheroes existed? So it kind of has those themes all through it. It mentions the Vietnam War, race riots, things like that throughout the entire book.
Yeah. You've got people who, I like that one of the old heroes just kind of married into politics. And
Ole Miss, right?
Ole Miss, yeah. Her husband's term is coming up, and they're like, we don't want this liberal to take over. Yeah. And they're like, why don't you run, Ole Miss? Yeah. People like you. You're a superhero.
Her husband is the governor of Mississippi, I think.
I think so. And she's like, I just got done being a puppet for the government. I don't want to be a puppet for the government again. And he's like, that's okay. You won't actually run. I will just pull all the politics behind the curtain.
If you know a lot about the socio-political landscape of the 60s and 70s, it has familiar themes, because that theme is reminiscent of George Wallace. He was the governor of Alabama, and he had exhausted the number of consecutive terms he could run in a row. And so to solve that, they ran his wife at one point. So she became governor. I think that was George Wallace. But anyway, go on. Sorry, I digress.
You're fine. I mean, it's interesting that I don't generally have any background in history, and I know both of y'all do. But I've found that if you know history, it's more interesting to you.
Yeah,
there's a lot of nods to things that I'm just like, But seeing the superheroes kind of become different than what they were, because they weren't. If you've read The American Way, or if you haven't, it was a setup. They took people, gave them superpowers, gave other people superpowers, and created villains and heroes, and staged it all on TV to make it look like there was more going on, but it was really just a ruse kind of thing. So the fact that they're now no longer playing this puppet to make, America feel better again about the world and the state it's in, they have to define themselves, whether they're going to be a superhero, whether they're going to be an activist that kind of goes against the grain of the government. In the case of Amber Waves, she's kind of blowing stuff up and doing her own thing. Whether you're trying to think, gonna run for governor, or the daughter of the villain who kills I don't remember the name of the guy from the first book, but the daughter of the villain that is blamed for the death of one of the superheroes in the first book is coming to join Amber Waves and be an activist and be like, well, this is the life I'm gonna lead. Everyone thinks my dad's evil. He wasn't really. It was all a show. But if you're gonna do that, then I'm gonna live up to that moniker.
The social political themes throughout the book are like, okay, you've got the South. They're trying to make Ole Miss run as a governor to fill out a term. The New Americans chasing around this black Punisher. What's his name?
His name's Willie Betts.
Willie Betts is chasing around Willie Betts, and his ideology is reminiscent of the Black Panther movement. And then Amber Waves is running around with a group called the People's Liberation Front, which is thematically similar to the Seminoles Liberation Army, which kidnapped Patricia Hearst in the 70s, and that kind of reminded me of that. But the writer of this book, I believe he was the screenwriter. It says right here in the house ad for The American Way, he was the screenwriter on 12 Years as a Slave. I think he won, and it says he's an Academy Award winner. So, his name's John Ridley.
He also wrote the original American Way series.
Yeah, he
too,
did.
So.
He did.
Which I guess is this year is the 10th anniversary
It is.
of that, and they're coming out with an anniversary trade, so
They are.
it's a good time to jump on if you're interested in that.
Yep, and it pairs up the same creative team. John Ridley's the writer, and Georges Gentry is their artist, and it's the same creative team 10 years later trying to do a sequel to this book.
Yeah. I thought it was good. The art was pretty decent.
Art was good.
And I think that overall I enjoyed the book. I wish I knew more about history in general, and I wish I'd read the first series before reading this book.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a lot of references to stuff
Sure.
that I'm not very aware of.
I had never read the first series either. It's a Vertigo book, and generally Vertigo is really heavy anyway. So not that I don't like heavy, it's just I tend to stay away from Vertigo. But I like this book. I thought it was good. It's a solid book. It's kind of a good jumping on point. You don't have to have read it, the first American Way, to like this, but it would help, definitely. But I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I did too. And ironically, like I said, if if this is your bag, and obviously it's a good time to jump on because they're coming out with a trade for the original series.
Yeah.
So you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. I suspect if you've read the first one, you're going to like this one.
Yeah.
If not, I think you could still like it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and give it a Silver Age. I would have given it better had I read the first book. There's a lot of references to the first series in it, but it's not unreadable if you haven't read the first series.
Yep, I agree. I concur.
Silver. So
Yep.
you're giving it a silver too?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a silver as well. I thought it was a solid book. It's got good writing. The guy's researched his history. If you're going to do a book with historical references, I mean, his historical references are solid on. He doesn't copy them wholesale. He adapts the perspectives and the themes into his own story, which I think, that's cool. Probably did that to avoid, lawsuits or any, legal wranglings. But solid book, good writing, good art. I give it a solid silver all day long.
The next book we're going to talk about is Old Man Logan number 26. For those that may not be reading Old Man Logan right now, Old Man 25 was supposedly a new story arc. It's a good jumping on point. And in 25, they reintroduce the Maestro, an alternate reality Hulk, into Marvel 616, or the main universe for Marvel. Obviously, you can still go back and get 25. 25 was a pretty good read, and it introduces the Hulk gang and everything into 616. I encourage you to read Old Man Logan, the original series by Mark Millar that came out probably 10 years ago now. Excellent read, but this is a direct sequel, I would say, to that storyline. And anybody that's reading Old Man Logan knows that he was pulled over during the Secret Wars
Maestro is from the series, is the Hulk series called Hulk Future Imperfect by Peter David and George Perez. It was a 2-issue prestige format series. It came out in the early to mid 90s, which is excellent.
It is a good read. In that series, 616 Hulk goes to an alternate reality and fights his alternate reality self, who's basically become the world power because he's so strong. He's killed all the other heroes off, and there's nobody to challenge him. In Old Man Logan continuity, Logan's been beaten down, and the Hulk gang, led by that reality's Bruce Banner, has created his own little hillbilly fiefdom. Yeah, thanks. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And so somehow or another, it hasn't been revealed yet, but the Maestro has came over, and he's kind of pulled, and he pulled at the same time. Some rift or portals opened up and it allowed what's left of the Hulk gang or another Hulk gang to come over and the Maestro to come over. And so he's kind of rallied them on. He's trying to find a place to hold up while he basically nukes the world again, kind of like what happened in the Old Man Logan time frame. And there's a point there's a flashback of Logan and Hawkeye talking to one of Logan's sons about what happened, and they were like, yeah, well, we really they didn't need, the war was over, they didn't need to nuke everything, but they did anyway. And if you read Old Man Logan, that actually made the Hulks stronger. Same goes for in the Maestro, when they used nukes, it made him more powerful. So
now the writer of this book is obviously a fan of Clint Eastwood westerns, because this whole opening scene about the sick pigs, that is a flat out reference to Unforgiven, where the opening scenes of Unforgiven.
Paul, why is the pig sick?
Why are the pigs sick, Paul? And that's exactly what's going on here. And I love that. I was like, that's cool. I got a kick out of that.
As far as the story goes, I'm intrigued. Like I said, I read 25. I had not read the beginnings of the Old Man Logan series, but when I saw that Maestro was coming back and 25 was a good jumping on point, I was like, well, I'm going to read this and check this out. I like 25 and I like 26. 26 obviously is continuing the story.
Right.
It's good. I enjoyed it. It's a quick read.
The art is solid.
Yep.
It's Mike Deodato.
So has Maestro always been aware of alternate reality stuff, or is this kind of a new development?
So Maestro is from Hulk Future Imperfect, and he is the smart, strong Hulk, the smartest Hulk there's ever been, with the strongest Hulk they've ever been, with the same person. It's Hulk with Banner's mind, and he travels to the future and encounters old man Rick Jones, who's in a wheelchair, and they engage in fighting, or it's revealed that Maestro, who is what Hulk will end up being if he's not careful, has conquered the entire world and pretty much murdered everybody in the process. Rick Jones is where he's staying, has got like there's tons of materials there that like tells you, without telling you, how every single hero died or they're not around anymore.
Right.
He's got like Cap's shattered shield, parts of Iron Man's armor. I think he's got Wolverine's skeleton.
Very, he does have, and it's very reminiscent of. Ironically, it's very reminiscent that scene in the Future Imperfect book is very reminiscent of Red Skull's throne room in Old Man Logan. Ironically,
and it probably, that book was influenced by the Hulk book. And Hulk and Wolverine are always going to be tied together. From Wolverine's first appearance was in the Hulk, and the two are always going to be tied together. But
I find it interesting that Maestro uses the alternate universe timelines of what's happened to Hulks with fighting Wolverine as kind of a fuel under the fire of all the Hulks that he has accumulated to kind of keep them from being stupid and getting into fist fights with Wolverine.
Yeah, well, it goes into that. Basically, the moniker is Wolverine is the best at what he does, and what he does ain't nice. So Banner knows this. No matter which Banner it is, Banner has fought the Hulk probably more times than anybody else.
Yeah.
And
quote unquote heroes.
Right. But it seems that the Hulk gang, the inbred Hulks, they're not the smartest logs on the tree, you know? And so he's telling them what to do, and he's like, hey, you know, don't engage Wolverine. Shoot him from a distance, nail him down, and
Don't go hand to hand.
do not go hand to hand, because I mean that's what happened in 25 was 4 or 5 Hulks went hand to hand, and you know Wolverine does what he does.
Right.
There are
So
great scenes of gratuitous violence in
Yes.
this book. If you're
Right.
into that, if you like seeing the Hulk smash somebody's head with his hands, that's in there for you. So
Do we know who the girl is? Is she supposed to be like She-Hulk, or is she
think
some
she's one
other?
of the-
she's
female
one
Hulk?
of she's one of the sisters of the
Yeah.
brothers.
Okay.
Her name's Cambria, and obviously, you know, she is not on board with all the violence, because in 25 she has, you know, at one point Maestro grabs her by the throat and says, "Hey, you know, you need to watch your mouth. You don't stand up to me in front of everybody else," because she makes a remark. She's like, "I don't think we should be doing this," and he grabs her by the throat and basically almost kills her and says, "Hey, don't make me
yeah,
look bad."
this isn't an equal opportunity Hulk.
Right.
This is pretty much
And-
Hulk my way or the highway.
And the same thing happens here when they take over this complex. You know, the Hulks are killing people, and she's like, "It's not supposed to be like this."
Right.
So there's obviously different camps, even in the Hulk group.
That may be foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Right. Between her and the kid that was left for dead at the end of the book.
So
Who may or may
obviously
not
every team has a weak link, and basically the Maestro tells a couple of the Hulks, "Hey, take Billy Bob out and make sure Billy Bob don't come back."
Right, and they set him up. I mean, they attack Wolverine and they follow the strategy to the letter, and they hose him down, run him over, shoot him, kick him, and then they send the one guy that had screwed up earlier in the issue into like coup de grace him, and he goes up there and he gets a Carlito's Way pulled on him because
Right.
there's no bullets in his gun. And that's when I kept expecting Wolverine to pop up and kill him, because Wolverine is moving, but then they open up on both of them and, you know, shoot them more and leave them in a bloody heap at the end of the book. So,
Yeah.
Yep. So all in all, I'm intrigued. I'm picking it up. I'm reading it. I read 25. I read 26. I'm probably going to keep on with this storyline. Some of my favorite storylines of reference: Future Imperfect, Old Man Logan. So I'm on board. I like this book.
okay.
I'm going to give it a. What do we got? What's after?
What's after what?
We got gold,
Silver,
bronze,
modern.
Yeah.
modern,
Okay.
and
So
back to the 90s.
yeah, I meant to write that down, but I'm going to give it a gold because I'm on board. I'm pumped. It's probably one of the best Wolverine books I've read in a while.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a Silver Age. I personally don't like super bloody, gory comic books, but the storyline is interesting. I did read Old Man Logan, and I enjoyed the references back and forth to it, and it's a good story.
I'm not a Marvel fan. I'm more of a DC guy. That being said, I agree with Don. I think this is a solid, top of the line comic. I'm going to give it a golden, and I don't give things golden. I wouldn't, you know, I've been very difficult on some of these books that we've reviewed. I like this book. It's concise. The art is solid. You know, if you're dealing with the Hulk and Wolverine, you're going to see some abject
Right.
violence. I mean, that's just the nature of it. But it's a solid book, and I would recommend it to anybody. It's good. All right, for our next review, we're going to look at Dark Days, The Casting, #1. It's a one-shot that leads directly into Metal, which is the DC summer event starting in August. It's got a nice 90s foil
Shiny cover,
shiny cover to entice the would-be comic buyer. And it's got 2 variants, I think. There's 2 50/50s.
Yeah, there's a Kubert and a Ramita.
Oh, there's 3 of them then, because this
Yeah,
is
well, that's
That's
the
the
main
regular
cover.
cover.
that's okay. So there's
And
3
then
variants.
there's 3, well, at least.
Yeah, well, 3 main covers, and this one that we have is by Jim Lee, which, you know, I like Jim Lee. So it's a collaboration book between Scott Snyder, Tynion, Jim Lee, Kubert, John Romita Jr., and
John Williams.
John Williams, or not John Williams, Scott Williams.
Is it Scott Williams? Okay.
Klaus
John Williams,
Janson.
of
It's
course,
the same creative team, that did the earlier book that we reviewed,
Was it our
The
first?
Forge.
The Forge.
Forge, yeah.
Same creative team and same concept. It picks up from there. It's got a $4.99 cover price, but it's thick, and that's not even counting the heavy stock cardboard cover. The book is, for me, I think it was a frustrating read in that, and only for the fact of this, it has 3 stories that by the end of the book are all tied together, which is what you want in a comic. But I found myself more interested in what was going on with Green Lantern and Joker and
His name's Duke.
Duke.
I guess he's supposed to be he's Robin, I guess.
He's one of Batman's family of young guys that hangs out, or young people that are under him that is hanging out in the Batcave. And, these Green Lantern and Duke get played by Joker. And Joker's in a prison underneath the Batcave. And Joker outsmarts Green Lantern,
Yeah.
Hal Jordan.
Yeah, it really showed how smart the Joker is
Right.
to be, Batman's nemesis. All
Yeah,
these
and
years.
a lot of times when Joker appears, you don't really think how smart he is, but Joker consistently over the years goes toe to toe with Batman, and Batman's one of the smartest characters in the DC universe, and he plays Green Lantern and Duke like they're freaking rookie
Yeah.
Teen Titans. He grabs Duke at one point and uses Duke. Something's going on with Duke where he's reacting to the metal.
It's, from my understanding,
Dynesium.
he's got some amount of it in his blood.
In his blood, and Batman identified that. And Joker's playing psychological mind games with him, and I think he murdered, or he drove Duke's parents insane, and Duke lunges at him, and that's just what Joker wanted. Joker's held in stasis and in check by a force field, and when he lunges forward, Joker grabs him, and it shorts out the force field, and then the lights go out, and that's when
Joker goes hog wild.
You don't want Joker running around in the dark, and there's a scene in the book where he's got a crowbar.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, oh my God, he's about to Jason Todd these guys, and he hits Green Lantern with a crowbar.
He's wailing on him.
The story starts off with Carter Hall, Hawkman, and Hawkgirl, and they're revealing more about all these mystery immortal guys, and Ra's al Ghul makes an appearance, and Wonder Woman makes an appearance. Batman's in some sort of I guess he's in some sort of mythological beast fighting Batman armor.
Yes.
Because he's fighting a griffin. I think that's a griffin.
It says it's Amphitryon.
Yeah, but
which is a character from mythology, but I don't remember Amphitryon being a. Well, Amphitryon was a mortal that was cursed by Zeus, I think. So, in mythology, I don't know the reference in the.
It
Looks
a
like he was
griffin.
turned guardian to Hephaestus in this storyline.
Yeah.
And Wonder Woman shows up, and she ends up like giving Batman a freaking sun sword from Thundar the Barbarian, I guess.
It's some relic, basically Greek mythology relic. There's only like there was a sword made for every god, and this is Apollo's or the sun god's sword.
It's a sun sword.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it's on fire, but I guess it doesn't burn you because
I guess not, because Batman puts it on his hip.
Puts
and
it in
it's-
his
and
belt.
It's not scorching his
Right.
his god fighting armor.
It doesn't scorch him yet.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I just thought that it was interesting that, they've been building up how big this metal is and how dire the situation is becoming. And it's
Dynesium's the name of the metal.
Yeah. It's so dire that the gods themselves have left.
Yep.
They're like, we're going to lock ourselves in Olympus and wait till you guys finish.
Yeah, you guys sort
figuring
this
it
out. We're gonna leave you to your own devices, and here's something that might help you out. And they leave like they give Wonder Woman a sword, and she hands it off to Batman.
Now I don't remember. Is this Dionysium? Is it supposed to be nth metal? That's always been what the Hawk people's maces and stuff are made out
but
of.
I think it's something. So? I think it's one step up from.
Okay.
So it's metal that predates humanity. It's still pretty vague, but it is responsible for. They flat out say at one point it's responsible for different people in the DCU at some point getting powers, which that they've been doing this. This book, there's certain times in this book that it reminds me of James Robinson's Golden Age, where in Golden Age, the character of Starman creates the Star Rod before any other superhero is active. And he activates the Star Rod, and it pulls cosmic energy down to Earth. And that one thing is the catalyst for all the other superheroes getting their powers in the Golden Age, which is an Elseworlds tale dealing with the Justice Society after World War II. And then another time it reminds me of, another series it reminds me of, is the Invasion storyline, where the metagenes, it's in every being in the galaxy, it's prevalent, but in humans, it's even more concentrated. And there's a scene in an Invasion where they get 100 humans. It's like an amalgam of different aliens, and the Dominion, the disc head, yellow skin guys, they engineer this test, and they get 100 humans. They put them in an arena and they open up laser cannons on them, and it shoots every one of them down. And at the end of it, there's like 8 survivors. So 92% of the people that were subjected to this murderous laser barrage are killed, but 8 of them survive. And, you know, as you're reading at the time, you're like, oh my God, these aliens just killed 92 humans. And then, but there's 8 surviving, and the Dominators are freaking out that 8 of them have survived. And they're like, this is unacceptable. And the Invasion storyline is they get up all these alien groups, alien races from the DCU decide that they can't allow Earth to continue, that there's, you know, all these heroes from Earth are always sticking their nose into conquest, and so they decide to conquer Earth, and that's the impetus of the Invasion series. But it's sort of reminiscent of that, because it talks about the metagene at one point. But the storyline, I kind of digress from my point. The storyline goes back and forth between Hawkman and Carter Hall's investigations, Joker and Green Lantern and Batman. And at the end of the book, they all intersect. But I was really into what was going on in the Batcave with Joker, Green Lantern, and Duke, and not so much all the other stuff. And it was frustrating to sit here and read it, and then all of a sudden you're into what's going on. Joker's free of the force field, and then all of a sudden it stops and tells you about what Carter Hall's doing and how he helped the challengers of the unknown, and, you know, gives you some, I guess, important backstory about who the bad guys are going to be in this coming event. But
it's a lot of history of the DC universe involved in this storyline.
And this ad.
Man, every time I open those ads, I get
it's
really confused.
I'm like, where did Grodd come from?
And like, that's what was so frustrating is like, okay, you're reading it and it's hopping around to different heroes, and you turn the page and I'm like, oh wow, Flash and Superman are going to be in here, and they're fighting Gorilla Grodd. And then I look and it's a freaking Snickers ad. Snickers satisfies, but not in a comic book.
It turns normal humans into Gorilla Grodd.
Yeah, I guess so, but but you know, the book progresses. Talia appears, which she's one of my favorite Bat allies / villain.
Yeah.
You know, baby mama.
Depends on the time.
Yeah. But Batman, curiously enough, like I was like, what are you thinking, Bruce? Because he trades this
God
relic for another Shazam dagger, which comes into play later on. The book immediately progresses back to Joker fighting Green Lantern in the Batcave.
It's very jumpy.
Yep, it's a jumpy book. But it looks like, despite all this jumpiness, that it's going to be a really good series, I hope.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You get to see Green Lantern fly the Batwing.
The Batwing.
Yeah.
I'm a pilot,
and I'm going to mess you up, Joker.
It was nice to kind of see that, because I think we forget that, you know, he was a pilot and was in the Air Force before he became the Green Lantern.
Yeah. At one point in the book, the Batman storyline finally intersects with Green Lanterns, and, you know, in the Batcave with Duke fighting Joker. And there's like this debate between Green Lantern and Batman, and like as I'm reading, I'm like, give me a break. You know, you guys don't fight. Obviously, there's stuff going on that you guys need to be on the same page with. And luckily, I think they
Right.
get it sorted out, which is pretty cool. You get to see Green Lantern create a duplicate ring and give it to Duke, and he recreates this machine that Batman's going to peer back into the past, which that's always a bad thing if you read the DCU. You don't want to be peering back into the past. That's how,
Never pierce the veil.
yeah, don't pierce the veil. That's how crises get started, and it looks like that's what this is going to be because it's, I think, you know, somebody at one point goes, the dark crisis is upon us, you know, and anytime you start hearing that crisis word get thrown around, you know, it makes you think. So it's leading into the series Metal, which comes out in August. So this book, I thought was a solid book. It's good value for the money. The jumping around was a little bit annoying to me, and for that, I'm only going to give it a silver. I would recommend it to be picked up and bought. It's a good sequel to The Forge, but I liked it.
I give it a solid silver. I really enjoyed this book, and it's a lot of history, but I'm encouraged to see what happens.
I really have been enjoying the entire storyline. I understand to a degree why they're doing the jumpiness because I don't think people will pick up a book that's just about Hawkman.
I agree with you.
So taking that into consideration, I'm going to give it a golden because I've been really, really enjoying this storybook.
And that's unique for you because you're more of a
Yes.
Marvel reader, right?
And I'm not as much of a Batman reader either. So
Cool.
It's definitely a storyline that I would encourage readers to pick up.
Okay. Well, cool. That's our issue five
Yep.
for this week. And we encourage you to go out to come out to Heroes and Villains, get your comics. If you can't come here, find another local store in your area and give these books a look and even more. So thanks.
Press like or subscribe. We'll be doing it again next week.
Thanks.